The morning sun cast long shadows across the Nevada desert when the sky suddenly turned white. Dr. Kate Morrison was drinking her coffee at the research station when the entire building shook like an earthquake had hit. Outside, a massive fireball streaked across the heavens, leaving a trail of green smoke that stretched from horizon to horizon. The object crashed 40 miles north of their position with such force that windows shattered in towns 100 miles away. Seismic stations recorded the impact as a magnitude 4.2 earthquake. Within hours, military helicopters filled the air and roadblocks appeared on every highway leading toward the crash site. Colonel Jake Mitchell arrived at Kate's research station by noon. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and moved with the quick precision of a career soldier. Kate had worked with the military before on meteor recovery missions, but this felt different. The colonel's face was tense, and he kept checking his radio. Every few minutes, "Dr. Morrison, we need your expertise," he said without preamble. "What we found out there isn't a meteor." The helicopter ride to the crash site took 20 minutes. As they flew over the last ridge, Kate saw something that made her grab the colonel's arm. A metallic hull stretched across the desert floor like a fallen skyscraper. The ship was nearly 2 kilometers long, its surface covered in smooth curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. But the hull was split open along its entire length, revealing dark chambers within. "How many crew members?" Kate asked. "That's the strange part," Mitchell replied. "We haven't found anyone, living or dead." The impact crater was enormous, but there was no radiation and no fire damage beyond the initial crash. Military engineers had already built a temporary bridge across the ship's broken hull. Kate followed Mitchell inside, her heart racing with excitement and fear. The interior corridors were tall and narrow, clearly designed for beings much different from humans. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly with blue light. The air smelled of ozone and something sweet that Kate couldn't identify. Emergency lights still functioned, casting an eerie glow through the damaged sections. "The power systems are still partially active," Mitchell explained as they walked deeper into the ship. "Our engineers estimate the technology is centuries ahead of anything we have." They entered what appeared to be a living area. Furniture that looked like it had been grown rather than built filled the space. Personal items were scattered everywhere as if the inhabitants had left in great haste. Kate picked up what looked like a photograph showing tall, slender beings with large eyes and delicate features standing in front of a beautiful alien city. "They're called navigators," said a voice behind them. Kate turned to see a young man in military fatigues carrying a tablet computer. "I'm Ryan Brooks, computer specialist. I've been trying to access their data systems." Ryan showed them his tablet, which displayed alien text slowly being translated by his programs. Their language is mathematical in nature, which makes it easier to decode. From what I can tell, they were fleeing something they call the Devourer Fleet. Kate examined more personal items while Ryan and Mitchell discussed technical details. She found what appeared to be children's toys, food containers with alien script, and clothing made from materials that felt like silk but glowed faintly in the dark. Everything suggested a civilian population, not military personnel. "Dr. Morrison, you need to see this," called a female voice from deeper in the ship. Lieutenant Amy Carter stood in what appeared to be a workshop area. Workbenches lined the walls, covered with partially assembled devices that hummed with contained energy. Technical manuals were scattered everywhere, their pages showing detailed diagrams of weapon systems and defensive technologies. They were trying to turn their ship into a warship, Amy explained. "Look at these weapon designs. They're sophisticated but incomplete." Kate studied the diagrams. The aliens had been attempting to install massive energy cannons, shield generators, and what appeared to be some kind of faster-than-light communication system. But the work was unfinished, as if they had run out of time. Ryan connected his tablet to one of the alien computers. "I'm getting more data from their logs. The Devourer fleet destroyed their homeworld 6 months ago. This ship was part of a civilian evacuation fleet, but they were being hunted across the galaxy. The translation software worked slowly, but the story became clear. The navigators were an ancient spacefaring race known for their advanced technology and peaceful nature. They had explored the galaxy for thousands of years, establishing colonies and trade routes, but something had changed recently. A new enemy had appeared, consuming entire worlds and growing stronger with each conquest. The navigators call them devourers because they literally eat planets, Ryan continued reading. They convert matter into energy to fuel their ships and weapons. Every world they destroy makes them more powerful. Kate felt a chill run down her spine. Where is this devourer fleet now? According to the last log entries, they were 3 years behind the navigator evacuation ships. That was 6 months ago. Mitchell's radio crackled to life. He listened for a moment, then turned to the group with a grim expression. Command wants a full report on everything we've found. Dr. Morrison, I need you to lead a complete survey of this ship. We have a feeling this isn't just about archaeology anymore. Over the following days, Kate's team made discovery after discovery. The ship's central core was completely dead, its exotic matter containment systems offline. The propulsion drive was nothing more than an empty shell. But the technical manuals left behind were incredibly detailed. As if the navigators had intentionally left them for someone else to find, Amy found a message crystal in the workshop that played a holographic recording when activated. A tall, graceful navigator appeared, speaking in their musical language, while the translation software worked to convert his words. To whoever finds this vessel, we have failed in our mission to weaponize our technology. Our people think in terms of harmony and balance, but warfare requires chaos and destruction. Perhaps another species will succeed where we could not. The devourers must be stopped before they consume all life in the galaxy. Kate stared at the hologram as it faded away. The implications were staggering. An entire alien civilization had fled across the galaxy, leaving behind their most advanced technology in the hope that someone else might use it more effectively than they could. Colonel, she said quietly, I think we need to contact every government on Earth. This isn't just about one crashed ship anymore. We might be looking at humanity's introduction to galactic warfare, Mitchell nodded grimly. I'll make the calls. In the meantime, Dr. Morrison, I want your team to document everything. Every piece of technology, every weapon design, every technical manual. If the navigators are right about this devourer fleet, we're going to need all the help we can get. As the sun set over the Nevada desert, Kate stood at the edge of the crash site looking at the massive alien ship. Somewhere out in space, an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations was slowly making its way toward Earth. But they had left humanity a gift that might just level the playing field. 5 years had passed since the navigator ship crashed in the Nevada desert. What was once a simple crash site had become the most classified military installation on Earth. General Lisa Hayes walked through the underground corridors that now connected dozens of research facilities built around the alien vessel. The place buzzed with activity 24 hours a day as scientists and engineers from every major nation worked together on humanity's greatest challenge. Dr. Ben Turner met her at the main laboratory entrance. He looked tired but excited, the way he always did when he had made a breakthrough. Ben had been the chief engineer on the project since the beginning, and his team had made more progress in reverse engineering alien technology than anyone thought possible. General, you're going to want to see this, Ben said, leading her into the computer lab where Alex Chun was working at a terminal connected directly to the navigator systems. Alex was young, barely 25, but he had an unusual talent for understanding alien computer systems. His fingers moved across the holographic interface as if he had been born to use it. Lines of navigator code scrolled across multiple screens, slowly being translated and understood. Show her what you discovered about the neural interfaces, Ben said. Alex turned to face them, his eyes bright with excitement. General, the navigator computers are designed to work with quantum brain patterns. But here's the incredible part. Human minds can actually interface with their systems more effectively than the navigators themselves could. He activated a demonstration on the main screen. The navigators thought in very rigid mathematical patterns. Their minds were logical and organized, but they couldn't think outside the boundaries of their programming. Humans are different. We're chaotic, creative, and we see possibilities where they saw limitations. General Hayes watched as Alex connected his mind to the navigator computer through a specially designed headset. Immediately, the alien systems began responding faster and more efficiently than they ever had under navigator control. Power readings increased, processing speeds doubled, and system integrations that had failed for the original builders suddenly worked perfectly. "We can overclock their power systems by 300%, Alex continued. The navigators never tried this because it seemed dangerously illogical to them. To us, dangerous just means we need to be more careful. Captain Noah Davis entered the lab carrying a tablet full of military test results. He had been leading the weapons integration team for 2 years, and his reports always made for interesting reading. Noah was practical and straightforward, the kind of officer who could take theoretical alien technology and turn it into something that actually worked in combat. "General, we've been installing human-modified navigator weapons throughout the ship," Noah reported. "The results are beyond our expectations. Every system we've touched performs better under human control than it ever did for its original builders." He showed them video footage of weapons tests conducted in the deep underground chambers. Navigator energy cannons that had been designed to fire once every 30 seconds could now fire continuously under human operation. Defensive shields that the aliens used only for protection had been modified to create devastating offensive weapons. Dr. Emma Foster appeared on the main view screen via video link from the physics laboratory. She was working on one of the most important discoveries of the entire project. Emma had found a way to reverse navigator shield technology, turning their defensive systems into weapons that could tear apart enemy ships at the molecular level. "General Hayes, we've made another breakthrough with the shield inversion system," Emma said from the screen. "The same energy fields the navigators use to deflect asteroids can be weaponized to disrupt the molecular bonds in enemy armor. We're essentially turning their own defense technology into the ultimate offensive weapon." Dr. Sam Rodriguez joined the video call from his laboratory across the facility. Sam was a physicist who specialized in energy systems, and he had been working on ways to chain multiple navigator power cores together. His work was dangerous, but potentially revolutionary. "Emma's right about the shield technology," Sam said. "But I found something even more impressive. By linking navigator power cores in ways they never intended, we can create energy outputs that dwarf anything in human history. A single modified core can power a weapon system capable of destroying a city-sized target." General Hayes felt both excited and worried by these developments. The progress was incredible, but she also knew they were working against time. Major Luke Thompson had been monitoring alien communications for months, and his reports were becoming increasingly urgent. Luke entered the laboratory as if summoned by her thoughts. He was an intelligence officer who specialized in alien communication. Intercepts, and his face was always serious these days. He carried classified reports that only a few people on Earth were authorized to read. "General, we've intercepted more Devour Fleet transmissions," Luke said quietly. "They're closer than we thought. My analysis suggests they'll reach our sector in less than 2 years, possibly sooner." The room fell silent. Everyone knew this day would come, but hearing it confirmed made the threat feel immediate and real. Somewhere out in space, the same enemy that had scattered the navigators across the galaxy was moving toward Earth with the intention of consuming everything in their path. Ben Turner broke the silence. "Then we need to accelerate the project timeline. The ship modifications are progressing well, but we'll need to take some risks if we want to be ready in time." Alex nodded in agreement. "The navigator systems are responding better to human control every day. I think we can push them even harder than we've been doing. The aliens were too cautious with their own technology." Noah looked at his tablet and made some quick calculations. "If we focus on the most essential weapon systems and skip some of the safety protocols, We might be able to have a functional warship ready in 18 months. Emma's voice came through the speakers with determination. My team can have the shield inversion weapons ready for installation within 6 months. They won't be pretty, but they'll be effective. Sam added his own timeline. The power core modifications are dangerous, but if we're facing an extinction-level threat, I think the risks are acceptable. Give me 4 months and I can have a power system that would make the Navigator's original designers proud and terrified at the same time. General Hayes looked around the room at the faces of the people who might just save humanity. They were young, brilliant, and completely unafraid of taking alien technology beyond its intended limits. Where the Navigators had seen boundaries, humans saw opportunities. Then we proceed with accelerated development, she decided. Major Thompson, I want daily updates on Devourer fleet movements. Everyone else, you have the resources and authority to do whatever it takes to turn that Navigator ship into something that can protect Earth. As the meeting dispersed, Hayes remained in the laboratory watching Alex work with the alien computers. The young man's fingers danced across controls that had been designed by a civilization thousands of years older than humanity, yet he used them with an intuitive understanding that their creators had never achieved. It gave her hope that maybe, just maybe, human ingenuity would be enough to face the coming storm. The abandoned Navigator vessel no longer looked like the graceful ship that had crashed in the Nevada desert. Chief of Operations Rebecca Stone stood on the observation platform watching dozens of welding torches spark against the alien hull. As human engineers transformed the elegant curves into something altogether more aggressive. The project had been given the codename Phoenix, and like its mythical namesake, the ship was being reborn from the ashes of its former self. Rebecca coordinated the massive undertaking that involved gutting and rebuilding nearly every system aboard the alien vessel. Where the Navigators had designed flowing corridors and harmonious living spaces, humans were installing armor plating, weapon conduits, and tactical command centers. The transformation was brutal but necessary. Tony Martinez climbed down from one of the hull-mounted work platforms, his engineering uniform covered in metal shavings and alien coolant fluid. Tony had designed the most audacious modification of all, a railgun system that ran the entire length of the ship, turning the 2-kilometer vessel into a massive kinetic weapon platform. Rebecca, the main railgun installation is ahead of schedule, Tony reported, wiping sweat from his forehead. We've integrated it directly into the ship's structural framework. When we fire this thing, the entire vessel becomes the weapon. The railgun was a masterpiece of human engineering combined with Navigator technology. Instead of the elegant energy weapons the aliens preferred, humans had created something that fired solid projectiles at nearly the speed of light. The weapon drew power directly from the modified Navigator cores, giving it destructive capability that exceeded anything in Earth's arsenal. Dr. Chloe Anderson emerged from the central computer core where she had been working for 16 hours straight. Chloe was developing the ship's new artificial intelligence system, built from a hybrid of Navigator quantum computers and human neural network technology. The project was challenging because human and alien thinking patterns were so fundamentally different. Rebecca, I need to show you something about the AI, Chloe said, leading her to the main computer interface. The screens came alive with scrolling data as Chloe activated the hybrid system. A voice emerged from the speakers, distinctly artificial, but with something unmistakably human in its tone and inflection. Good morning, Dr. Anderson. I have been analyzing the weapon integration reports and I believe we can increase the railgun's firing rate by 22% if we reroute power from the environmental systems during combat operations. Rebecca stared at the screen in amazement. It has personality. More than that, Chloe explained. The AI has developed what I can only describe as aggressive creativity. The Navigator AIs were cautious and logical, always seeking the safest solution. Our Phoenix AI actively looks for ways to push systems beyond their design limits. The AI spoke again, its voice carrying what sounded almost like enthusiasm. Dr. Anderson, I have also identified 17 ways to weaponize the life support systems, 12 methods for overloading power conduits to create massive energy discharges, and 3 techniques for using the navigation sensors as targeting systems for weapons that do not yet exist. Rebecca felt both impressed and slightly concerned. They had created an artificial intelligence that thought like a human warrior rather than a peaceful navigator-explorer. Phoenix was becoming exactly what they needed to face the Devourer fleet. Commander Ethan Brooks entered the computer core carrying training reports from the pilot program. Ethan had been selected to lead the first human crew aboard the modified navigator vessel, and his job was to teach humans how to operate alien control systems that had been designed for completely different minds and bodies. The crew training is going better than expected, Ethan reported. Humans adapt to navigator interfaces much faster than we predicted. More importantly, they're using the systems in ways the original designers never intended. He showed them video footage of human pilots practicing with navigator flight controls. Where the aliens had flown in smooth, predictable patterns, humans were performing maneuvers that pushed the ship's structural limits. They treated the massive vessel like a fighter craft, rolling and diving in ways that should have been impossible for something so large. The navigators built their ships to last for thousands of years, Ethan continued. They designed everything with huge safety margins and redundant systems. Humans see all those safety margins as wasted potential. We can push these systems 3 times harder than their builders ever intended. Dr. Kevin Young appeared on the main view screen from the propulsion laboratory deep beneath the ship. Kevin was working on the most revolutionary modification of all, something he had named the Harmony Drive. The navigator propulsion system had been completely destroyed in the crash. But Kevin was rebuilding it using principles that combined alien technology with human theoretical physics. Rebecca, we've achieved stable dimensional phase shifting, Kevin announced from the screen. The Harmony Drive doesn't just move the ship faster than light. It allows Phoenix to exist in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously. The implications were staggering. A ship that could phase between dimensions would be nearly impossible to target, while retaining the ability to fire weapons at enemies trapped in normal space. It was a capability that the navigators had never developed, requiring the kind of reckless innovation that seemed uniquely human. Rebecca watched the transformation continue around her as hundreds of human engineers and technicians worked to turn an alien refugee ship into humanity's ultimate weapon. The elegant navigator architecture was being replaced with angular human additions that gave Phoenix a predatory appearance. Weapon ports bristled from every surface, armor plating covered the graceful curves, and sensor arrays created a crown of technological spines along the ship's hull. Tony Martinez returned with updates on the defensive systems. We're installing reactive armor that actually repairs itself using navigator nanotechnology. But instead of just fixing damage, we've programmed it to learn from each hit and become stronger. Chloe's AI spoke up again without being prompted. I have calculated optimal armor configurations for 47 different attack scenarios. I recommend we prepare for combat strategies that emphasize aggressive close-range engagement rather than the defensive tactics the navigators preferred. Ethan nodded in agreement. The crew training supports that approach. Human pilots are naturally aggressive, and the modified navigator systems respond better to bold tactics than cautious ones. Kevin's voice came through the speakers from the propulsion lab. The Harmony Drive is designed for rapid tactical jumps rather than long-range exploration. We can appear anywhere in a star system within seconds, fire at point-blank range, and phase shift before the enemy can respond. Rebecca looked at the tactical displays showing Phoenix's projected capabilities. The ship that had once carried navigator refugees fleeing from an unstoppable enemy was becoming something that could hunt the hunters. Human ingenuity had taken alien technology and transformed it into a weapon that surpassed anything either species had created alone. The transformation was nearly complete. But Rebecca knew the real test would come when Phoenix faced the Devourer fleet in actual combat. They had built something unprecedented, a warship that combined the best of human and navigator technology while being controlled by minds that refused to accept the limitations that had doomed the original builders. As she watched the final modifications being installed, Rebecca felt a mixture of pride and anticipation. Phoenix was no longer just humanity's hope for survival. It was their declaration that Earth would not go quietly into the void. The alarm klaxons echoed through Phoenix's command center as Captain Greg Sullivan strapped himself into the captain's chair. The Devourer fleet had arrived 18 months ahead of schedule, catching Earth's defenses completely unprepared. Long range sensors showed dozens of massive biomechanical ships emerging from hyperspace near the outer planets, their hulls pulsing with organic growth that fed on consumed matter. Greg looked around the bridge at his crew of 200 humans operating a vessel designed for 3,000 navigators. They were understaffed by alien standards, but humans had proven remarkably adaptable at multitasking under pressure. Where navigator crews required specialized operators for each system, his people cross-trained and switched roles in real time. As combat demanded, Lieutenant Sarah Kim called out from the sensor station, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they faced. "Captain, I'm reading 47 Devourer vessels in the outer system. They're larger than anything in our projections, some over 5 kilometers long." Communications Officer Janet Parker turned from her station with an expression of controlled fear. "Sir, I'm intercepting their battle chatter. They're referring to Earth as target designation 77 Alpha. We're just another meal to them." Greg activated the ship-wide communication system, his voice carrying to every human aboard Phoenix. "All hands, this is the captain. We knew this day would come. Today we find out if human stubbornness can beat alien technology. All stations report ready status." The responses came quickly from throughout the ship. Tony Martinez confirmed that the railgun system was fully charged and ready. Dr. Chloe Anderson reported that the Phoenix AI was operating at optimal parameters and had already begun calculating attack vectors. Commander Ethan Brooks announced that all pilots were at their stations and the Harmony Drive was prepared for dimensional phase shifts. The first engagement began near Jupiter when Phoenix intercepted a Devourer scouting force of 6 vessels. Greg watched the tactical display as the enemy ships moved in perfect formation, their biomechanical hulls gleaming with absorbed energy from previous conquests. They expected another easy victory like they had achieved against the navigators countless times before. "Janet, what are they saying about us?" Greg asked. Janet listened to her headset, translating the alien communications in real time. "They're calling us the refugee ship and discussing the easiest way to harvest our technology. They think we're just another navigator vessel trying to run away." Greg smiled grimly. "Let's show them how wrong they are. Tony, prepare the rail gun for close-range engagement. Ethan, I want a phase jump directly into their formation." The Harmony Drive activated with a sound like reality tearing apart. Phoenix vanished from normal space and reappeared in the middle of the Devourer formation, so close that the enemy ships filled the view screen. The aliens had never encountered tactics like this. What sane commander would voluntarily jump into the center of an enemy fleet? "Fire!" Greg ordered. The railgun system discharged with devastating effect. The 2-kilometer projectile that was Phoenix itself became a kinetic weapon, punching through the lead Devourer vessel from bow to stern. But instead of continuing through, Phoenix phase shifted again, appearing behind the enemy formation and firing the railgun's secondary systems. At point-blank range, the battle became a demonstration of everything that made human warfare different from navigator tactics. Where the aliens expected elegant, predictable combat patterns, Phoenix fought dirty. Greg used Jupiter's moons as cover, fired from impossible angles through dimensional phase shifts, and employed the railgun system in ways that violated several laws of physics. Dr. Kevin Young's voice came through the speakers from the engine room. "Captain, the Harmony Drive is responding better than our simulations predicted. We can phase jump every 30 seconds without system stress." The Phoenix AI spoke up from the ship's computer core, its voice carrying what sounded like excitement. Captain Sullivan, I am detecting confusion in enemy communications. Their tactical algorithms cannot predict our next move because our behavior patterns do not match any known spacefaring species. Janet looked up from her communications station with amazement. Sir, they're calling us the mad ship in their battle chatter. They can't understand why we're ramming through their formations just to fire at close range when long-range engagement would be safer. Greg understood the enemy's confusion perfectly. Navigator tactics were logical and mathematical, designed to minimize risk and maximize efficiency. Human combat doctrine was based on controlled aggression, calculated risks, and the willingness to do whatever it took to win. The Devourers had spent thousands of years learning to counter logical tactics, but they had no defense against human unpredictability. The engagement continued for 2 hours, as Phoenix systematically destroyed the Devourer scouting force. Each enemy vessel that fell taught the humans more about their opponent's weaknesses. The biomechanical ships were powerful but slow to adapt, relying on absorbed technology rather than original innovation. Tony Martinez reported from the weapons station with barely contained enthusiasm. Captain, the railgun system exceeded all performance expectations. We destroyed 6 enemy vessels without taking significant damage ourselves. Sarah Kim called out new sensor readings. Sir, long-range scanners are detecting the main Devourer fleet moving toward the inner system. They're no longer treating us as a minor threat. Janet listened to the alien communications with growing excitement. Captain, you need to hear this. The enemy fleet commander is requesting reinforcements and describing Phoenix as unlike any vessel encountered in previous campaigns. They're actually afraid of us. Greg felt a surge of pride in his crew and their impossible ship. They had taken technology from a species that had been driven to the edge of extinction and turned it into something the galaxy's most feared enemy couldn't comprehend or counter. The victory at Jupiter was just the beginning. As Phoenix returned to Earth's orbital defenses, Greg knew they had proven something important. Human tactical thinking combined with navigator technology created a fighting capability that neither species could have achieved alone. The Devourers had grown powerful by consuming predictable enemies, but they had never faced anything like human warfare. Ethan Brooks approached the captain's chair with preliminary battle reports. Sir, damage control reports minimal system stress. The crew performed better than any training simulation. We're ready for whatever comes next. Greg looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Devourer main fleet. Hundreds of massive ships were converging on Earth, bringing enough firepower to consume entire solar systems. But for the first time since the crisis began, he felt genuinely optimistic about humanity's chances. Set course for Earth, he ordered. It's time to gather our allies and show the galaxy what happens when you threaten the wrong species. Phoenix turned toward home, no longer just a repurposed refugee ship, but humanity's declaration that Earth would not be another easy conquest for the Devourer fleet. Word of Phoenix's victory at Jupiter spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Captain Michelle Ross stood on the bridge of the legendary ship, now under her command after Greg Sullivan's promotion to Admiral of the New Earth Defense Fleet. The communications array was filled with messages from navigator colonies, refugee fleets, and other species that had been hiding in the shadows of space for years, all asking the same question. Was it true that someone had actually defeated the Devourer fleet in open combat? Michelle looked at the tactical display showing not just Phoenix, but an entire fleet of human vessels built using navigator technology principles. Each ship represented humanity's unique approach to alien engineering, brutal efficiency over elegant design, overwhelming firepower over defensive sophistication. The fleet looked nothing like the graceful navigator vessels that had once sailed peacefully between the stars. Dr. Amanda Clark entered the bridge carrying data tablets filled with technical specifications for her latest creation. Amanda had spent months developing what she called the temporal disruption system, a weapon that used the harmony drive technology to create impossible effects in enemy ships. It was the kind of weapon that no sane navigator scientist would have conceived, requiring the reckless innovation that seemed to define human engineering. "Captain Ross, the final modifications are complete," Amanda reported. "The temporal disruption system is ready for combat deployment. We can now cause enemy ships to age centuries in seconds or trap them in multiple time streams simultaneously." Michelle studied the technical readouts with fascination and concern. The weapon violated several fundamental laws of physics and required Phoenix to exist partially outside normal time during firing. It was dangerous, unpredictable, and absolutely devastating. Everything that made human weapons different from the cautious technology preferred by other species. Admiral Sullivan's voice came through the communication system from his flagship orbiting Earth. "Michelle, long-range sensors have detected the main Devourer fleet gathering in the Centauri system. Intelligence suggests they're coordinating their final assault on Earth. This is our chance to end the threat permanently." The plan was audacious, even by human standards. Instead of waiting for the Devourers to attack Earth, the human fleet would jump directly into the heart of enemy territory and engage their entire force in decisive battle. It was the kind of strategy that would have horrified the careful, logical navigators, but it perfectly suited human tactical thinking. Phoenix led the human fleet through hyperspace toward the Centauri system, followed by 37 other vessels. Crewed by humans who had trained on navigator technology for less than 3 years, they were outnumbered 10 to 1, facing an enemy that had consumed dozens of civilizations. But morale remained high throughout the fleet. Commander Lisa Park called out from the sensor station as they dropped out of hyperspace. "Captain, we're detecting over 400 Devourer vessels in the system. They're arranged in a defensive formation around 3 massive command ships, each one larger than anything we've seen before." The enemy fleet was truly impressive, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with absorbed energy from countless conquered worlds. The Devourers had grown fat and powerful on easy victories, but they had never faced anything like the approaching human armada. Communications. Officer Brian Walsh intercepted enemy transmissions as the two fleets faced each other across the void. "Captain, they're calling us the mad species and debating whether we're actually planning to attack their entire fleet with such a small force." Michelle activated the fleet-wide communication channel, her voice carrying to every human ship in the formation. "All vessels, this is Phoenix Actual. Today we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every species that ever ran from these monsters. Show them what happens when they pick on the wrong neighborhood." The battle began with Phoenix's temporal disruption system firing at the lead Devourer command ship. Reality twisted around the massive vessel as it suddenly aged. Thousands of years in seconds, its biomechanical hull crumbling to dust as centuries of entropy caught up with it in moments. The weapon's effect was so unprecedented that the entire enemy fleet hesitated, unsure how to respond to an attack that seemed to violate the basic laws of existence. The human fleet took advantage of that hesitation to execute coordinated dimensional jumps that scattered their ships throughout the enemy formation. Where the Devourers expected organized battle lines, they found human vessels appearing at random locations, firing at point-blank range and vanishing before return fire could be targeted effectively. Dr. Amanda Clark monitored the temporal disruption system from the weapons control center. "Captain, the system is working better than our models predicted. We can fire every 45 seconds without risking temporal paradoxes in our own timeline." The battle became a showcase of everything that made human warfare revolutionary. Phoenix and her sister ships fought with a combination of advanced navigator technology and aggressive human tactics that the galaxy had never seen before. Ships that should have been destroyed absorbed impossible amounts of damage through sheer stubborn engineering, while weapons designed for defense were used in devastating offensive combinations. "Captain," Jerry Stone of the vessel Defiance called over the communication channel with excitement in his voice. "Phoenix, we just took out 3 enemy ships by ramming them with our shields at maximum power. The navigator defensive systems work great as battering rams." Michelle watched the tactical display as human ships throughout the fleet performed maneuvers that their alien technology shouldn't have supported. Vessels designed for exploration were pulling combat turns that stressed their hulls beyond safety limits, while crews pushed every system to maximum output without regard for the manufacturer's recommendations. The tide of battle turned when Admiral Sullivan arrived with reinforcements from Earth. His fleet included converted navigator vessels alongside newly built human ships that incorporated lessons learned from years of reverse engineering alien technology. The combined force represented the best of both species, navigator, innovation guided by human determination. Communications Officer Walsh looked up from his station with amazement. Captain, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different Devourer vessels. They're asking for terms of defeat. Michelle felt a moment of stunned disbelief. The Devourer fleet had conquered most of the galaxy through overwhelming force and had never retreated from any engagement. The idea that they would surrender was almost impossible to comprehend. The battle ended not with the complete destruction of the enemy fleet, but with their withdrawal from human space and a promise to cease their galactic conquest. The Devourers had learned what navigator refugees across the galaxy already knew, that humans were dangerously unpredictable and completely unwilling to accept defeat. In the aftermath, representatives from dozens of species arrived at Earth to form what became known as the Galactic Alliance. The scattered navigator survivors emerged from hiding. Other races that had fled to the galactic rim returned to their homeworlds, and trade routes that had been abandoned for decades reopened under human protection. Phoenix continued to patrol the galaxy as both humanity's flagship and the symbol of a new era. The abandoned navigator ship that had crashed in the Nevada desert had become proof that sometimes the best way to use advanced technology was to completely ignore the limitations its creators had accepted. Michelle stood on the bridge, watching distant stars that were no longer hidden behind walls of fear. Humanity had taken its place among the galactic community not through careful diplomacy or gradual integration, but by refusing to let bullies terrorize their new neighborhood.